What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. This is your review for Love and Marriage Detroit Reunion Part 1, Season 1 Reunion Part 1. And so, let's say, we start off, of course, Carlos got to go and talk to everybody, child. And, I'm not a big fashion girl, but let me just go through the fashions, okay? I did like Brandon's suit standing up, but sitting down, it looked a little snug. Brandon is not fat by any stretch of the imagination, but it just looked a little snug. But I liked his suit. I love the fact that Brandon stays true to his aesthetic with his sneaker, Brandon, we've seen him all season wear his white sneakers with his linen outfits, his suits, his whatever. That's his brand. And I was here for it, and I was cool with that. Christina, her dress was okay. But I hated her makeup and I hated her hair. I thought that the makeup was dark. It was a nighttime look. It was an after 5 Met Gala kind of look. And I don't think it flattered that dark foundation and the smoky eye. I just don't think it, and the dark lip. I don't think it flattered her. And I didn't like that bob. Listen, I understand that that was a style, right? But, baby, I like a sharp, if it's going to be blunt, let it be a flat blunt. If it's going to be a bend, let it be a hard bend. I just didn't like it, okay? I think my favorite look was probably Kobe's dress. I loved her dress standing up and sitting down. I liked Kobe's hair, Russell, of course, Russell looked nice. He was coordinated. Anthony had on nice suit, and I liked Dr. LaTanya's dress. Like, I was here for it, baby. You was giving sex appeal, but not raunchy, right? You was giving sex appeal, but not sex. And I liked it. I was here for it. So, yeah, Christina, I liked her dress. It was okay, but I just didn't like the makeup. I just didn't. Christina, you're a beautiful girl. I just didn't like that makeup. I liked Carlos' suit, but that was very much his aesthetic. Carlos loves giving you that pattern print with the I don't know what they call it, vest underneath, whatever. So we was here for it. I wrote in my notes that Carlos asked some good questions. I feel like Carlos did a good job of holding people accountable. And I feel like he didn't really let people off the hook. But one thing I will say, as much as Carlos, there are times when Carlos get on my nerves. But the one thing I will say is that I do think that Carlos is very good in his reunions with holding people accountable. Even people that we know he likes. Like, for example, Love and Marriage Huntsville. We know he likes Melody. But I think he does a good job of holding Melody accountable. I really do. That's my opinion. So we start off, we went couple by couple by couple. So we start off with Brandon and Christina, and we started off with their major issues this season. Of course, we had to start with Brandon and Star Factory and his artists, and what was really happening with this other artist. Was it a full-out affair? Was it an emotional affair? What did you actually say? Now, I'm gonna be honest. I honestly think that Christina and Brandon decided how much they were going to tell and how much they weren't going to tell. Do I think that this situation with this artist went deeper than what they're telling us? I do. And I'm going to tell you why. Because here's where asking good questions, and here's where asking the uncomfortable / hard questions, here's where it comes in handy, right? Because Brandon, when every time Carlos asked these questions, they would look at each other and they would kind of do that hem and haw, because it was like we almost trying to figure out how much we gonna say. How much are we comfortable with saying? And even when Carlos asked Christina, well, what exactly did Brandon say about you that hurt? What exactly did he say that broke your heart? That's what he said, that broke your heart. See, to me, that should have been an easy boom, what he said. Because my thing is, y'all done already put it out there. So she hemmed and she hawed and she looked at Brandon. Oh, Carlos, this is so hard. He said he don't like me. Now, let me say this. I ain't never been married, okay? But I have been in relationships. I've been in long-term relationships. I've been in good relationships. I've been in not so good relationships. Listen, at some point in time, I feel like we all say that. sometimes you don't like them. I feel like it hit deeper for whatever reason it hit deeper. Now, she did end up explaining why it hit her, because she said that Brandon was basically telling her he was busy, he didn't have time. Yet he had time to be talking to this other woman, telling this other woman how much, you know, he did not like his wife and all these things. So once she explained it, then I was like, okay, I kind of get a little bit more what you're saying. But I still feel like Brandon and Christina are sharing, and I respect that they are sharing their highs and lows. But I also think they've decided what they're going to tell us and what they're not going to tell us. Now, Brandon said that that he doesn't even feel like it was an emotional affair. Brandon, it was an emotional affair. Anytime you are emotionally opening yourself up to another woman and telling another woman things you can't or won't tell your wife, and it is taking away from your marriage, and it is taking away from time from your family, it is an emotional affair. But I'm not too certain that it wasn't more. That's just my opinion. That's just my 2 cents. I ain't convinced that it ain't deeper. That's just me. Moving on. So then, we talked about, they talked about the fact that they're in a better space. They said that, you know, the show really gave them a mirror where they were able to see themselves, and you saw it from a different perspective. And so it did help them. It helped their marriage, and they are in a much, much better space than where they were. That's what they had said. So, but then Carlos was like, I still feel like, because Christina said, well, I think it helped Brandon see the things that Brandon was doing, and Brandon was doing this, and Brandon was doing that. And Brandon was like, well, hell, I was going to say the same thing about you. So now I'm like, so y'all still in this space of you're doing it, it's you, you're doing it, it's you. So again, I still don't know if they're in a place where they're taking accountability for their own actions, or if they're seeing what the other person is doing to them. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know, child. Okay. So then we go to Kobe and Russell. We didn't even get to Russell and his miscommunication or non-communication about the gym and him going to theology school. Child, we spent their whole segment on Christina and the Kobe cat and all of that. Now listen, I said it then and I'm gonna say it now. I still don't understand why Kobe cat set y'all off the way it did. I understand being hurt and upset that you feel like I'm copying after you. But I don't know. Maybe it's just something missing in the editing or something. I just don't get it. Like, if I'm in the middle of a disagreement with somebody and they were like, well, I mean, it seemed like you just being a whole copycat. Everything I do, you trying to do behind me. I don't know. I'm still confused as to why you got the response you got. If I wasn't saved, I would break every bone in your body. Because I called your wife a copycat. Y'all, it's got to be something missing in the editing. They left, I don't know. But I feel like we spent the next segment really arguing what we already talked about on the show. I'm not copying you. Because the reality is Kobe does have more followers. Kobe, I don't know if she's a bigger influencer, but if you're just going strictly by followers, Kobe has significantly more followers than Christina. But maybe Christina has the relationships because she's been in the game longer and she's been doing it longer. And so Kobe was like, you know, again, they still are not agreeing on how that whole collab conversation went down. And I just feel like until we get a meeting of the minds on that, I just don't think they're ever going to really figure that out and they're ever going to really be on the same page, because Christina feels like she didn't ignore Kobe. She just told Kobe we need to have this conversation face to face. Kobe feels like, look, I reached out to you. You didn't respond. I didn't understand your reaction. And then it was the whole Kobe cat thing, and that hurt because, you know, yes, there may be some things that are similar, but I'm not copying you. Somehow Dr. Latanya got into a child, and then Christina got mad because she felt like Dr. Latanya was butting into the situation or whatever. Um, Actually, Anthony and Latanya were next, but I'm going out of order. So I'm just going the way the couch was set up. So then they got into this whole thing about, do you think Dr. Latanya really likes you? And Christina was like, no, I don't think she likes you. Tanya said, look, I ain't got no problem with you. Carlos was like, but do you like her? And again, that was an example of Carlos holding her to the fire, because there's a difference between I don't have no problems with you and I don't like you, or I do like you. Because I may not have no problems with somebody, that doesn't mean I want to be friends with them, hang out with them, be cool with them. And when Carlos sort of pushed her, that's actually what Dr. Latanya said. She said, well, you know, I just don't feel like everybody has to be bosom buddies. Which means that this is somebody, when you see them, you cool, but you wouldn't go out of your way to ask them to lunch or dinner or spend time with them. And again, that is okay. We don't all have to be friends, but that's what it is. That's how you feel about the situation. So then, so at the end, Carlos tried to see if, he said, Brandon got choked up, because Brandon was like, look, I looked back at that first episode, and I mean, he kept, like, he really was about to cry. Like, he was trying to stop himself from crying. So he kept pausing. But ultimately, what he was saying was, I looked back on that first episode, and I remembered when we were friends. And I remembered when we were cool and we got along. And I look at it now, and I'm hurt, because I see now that y'all were my people. We've been through some stuff together, and I really wish we could get back there. And Carlos was like, well, you know, the Bible says, you know, that you have to forgive and blah, blah, blah. And see, this is the part that I need people to understand. There's a difference between forgiveness and friendship. I can forgive you. That doesn't mean I want to be your friend. That doesn't mean that I have any interest in spending time with you outside of whatever, you know. And Russell was like, I forgive you. That's it. And so Carlos asked Colby, and Colby was like, she wasn't ready. And I don't think she wasn't ready to forgive. She said a long time ago, it's going to take time to build up the trust. Like, she was really hurt. And again, I just think there's a difference between forgiveness and friendship. You know, like, you can forgive somebody that you never have any interest in being friends with ever again. I mean, I have people in my life, I forget, well, I'm not good at forgiving. But I can say that there are people in my life that I have forgiven what happened. That doesn't mean I want them in my life anymore. Especially if you give me time to move on, baby. I'm a Cancer. I'm emotional. It takes me a minute. The worst thing you can do for me, and I ain't going to say all cancers, but I'm going to say this Cancer, the worst thing you can do for me is give me time to move on. So, for example, if you were a really good friend and you were somebody that was in my inner circle, and you were the person that I would talk to on the phone, or I would go to lunch with, or go to brunch with, or you were my go-to when, like, oh my goodness, this concert is coming to town, let me see if so-and-so wants to go. If you were that person for me, the worst thing you can do is let me get past that. Because see, that's the part that I'm hurt. I'm hurt that I'm losing that part of that friendship. Baby, don't let 6-7 months go by. Because I've replaced that in my life. Not you, but I've replaced that emptiness. Baby, I'm good. As a matter of fact, we ain't even got to talk. You know? So, yeah. Anyway. So, I'm with Colby on that one. Like, yeah, I can forgive you, but I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready to move forward. Right. I 100% understand where she's coming from in that sense. Doctor, I always like to call her Doctor. I always like to give her props. Dr. Latanya and Anthony, of course, the biggest conversation was about this whole Atlanta situation. Listen, Anthony was gone for 7 months. That's a long time. COVID or no COVID, that's a long time. Not only was Anthony gone for 7 months, he had a whole apartment and everything set up. Now, I've heard Anthony saying, look, I was flying home every weekend, right? Dr. Latanya was like, look, I was a doctor. I was first responder. I was in the hospital. The kids were working. She said it wasn't really until the kids went back to school, because of the racism and the things that they were dealing with at school, she didn't know how to navigate, and she needed him there. I understood where Anthony was coming from the point when we found out that he was holding down the house in Detroit when Dr. Latanya was in Miami, I guess maybe doing a rotation or doing something. Now, I don't remember how long she was in Miami, or I don't know if they addressed how long she was in Miami. So I understood where Anthony was coming from to say, look, I held us down. Like, when you were in Miami and you were flying back and forth, I did it, no question. So, yeah, I felt like it was my time, and I felt like y'all didn't support me. But it doesn't sound like he's bitter. It does sounds like they have legitimately worked past it and worked through it. And they said they're actually in a better space too. That was pretty much part one. Now, again, I feel like we're gonna get deeper into the Kobe Brandon situation. I mean Russell situation. Because I really want to hear where we are now with Russell and his communication and this theology situation. Because again, I just want to hear where we are with it. I want to see if when he saw it back, did he sort of see it from Kobe's point of view? I don't know. But that was pretty much the reunion, child. Let me know what y'all think. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.